Good evening and welcome to I-24 News Defense, your weekly opportunity to receive broader perspective on strategic affairs, brought to you in cooperation with Israel Defense Magazine. Tonight we will discuss the Yom Kippur War 40 years after with a special interview and explore the future of anti-terrorism warfare. But before we begin, let's take a look at what else is happening in the world here.
We begin in North Korea, which holds its second mass military parade in a month. Pyongyang is celebrating with tens of thousands of troops the 9th of September as the founding day of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Moving on to Turkey, where Kurdish rebels have halted their pullout of the country, accusing Ankara of breaking its part of a ceasefire deal. The PKK, which is listed as a terrorist organization, announced that they will respect the truce. And now to India. 800 troops have been dispatched to the northern state of Pradesh after 28 people were killed and hundreds were injured in a weekend of communal violence between the Hindu majority and the Muslims. The riots, coming just a few months before the general election, worry the Indian government.
This year marks the 40th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War, a war whose impact on Israeli defense forces as well as Israeli society was profound and deep. Though many years have passed, it seems that for the men and women who fought and those who stayed behind in October 1973, the war will never be forgotten. To learn more, here's the report of Daphna Peles.
On the breach of the eve of the Jewish Yom Kippur, dozens of ex-military officers of all IDF branches gathered in Latrun, the official memorial site of the armored forces.
The Yom Kippur War was the fault line in Israel's society regarding the relationship between civilians and the army. The shock, the despair and the helplessness that overtook the army and the state of Israel in the first hours and days of the war can never be erased from the collective memory of Israel.
The Yom Kippur War was a traumatic war, a war after which the government fell, a war after which the IDF chief of staff and some generals had to leave service, a war with thousands of dead and wounded soldiers.
Though 40 years have passed since the war that changed Israel and its army, the memories from the days of hard battle are still fresh.
Our mission was to attack missile SAM sites. On the way back home, we were hit, and from there start a different story. To survive, to appear as an officer, and from this place I came with a stronger personality, I think.
Every time I got an order to attack Egyptian targets, we killed or wounded my company. I used to tense like a spring. I took out of my head any thoughts about parents, friends, brothers. I was all on the mission. I was all with my soldiers. Only in those moments was I able to neutralize the fear.
I was in the Mediterranean on a missile boat, and we were very, very ready, and the war didn't surprise us. But in any way, it was my first time under missiles. But very fast we understood that we had the right solution and we can do the job, and we did the job.
After the war, I looked at my pictures and I came across one I received after an operation in Lebanon prior to the Yom Kippur War. And I saw that most of my friends, my commanding officers, all of them better than me, were killed in that war.
Many words, books, and studies followed the Yom Kippur War, struggling to find an answer to whether or not this surprise could happen again.
And the answer is yes. Actually, uncertainty returned big deal to the Middle East. And we don't know exactly which kind of war we are going to face. Terrorism and low intensity wars are more often. But still, we don't know whether we face a northern front, what's going in Syria, or southern front, what's going in Egypt, in Sinai Desert, or even eastern front.
Joining us in the studio is Major General Reserve and a member of the Israeli Knesset, Amram Mitzna. Good evening, and thank you for joining us in the studio. Following the end of the report, can a war take us by surprise again?
Well, the situation today is completely different. First of all, we don't have real enemies on our fronts, and I'm speaking about heavy regular armies. The problem today is more terrorism, is more the idea of launching missiles, and it can be a surprise.
But with the satellites and the very advanced intel, can we?
Well, as you know, probably the war in Yom Kippur was not of the lack of intelligence. It was a lack of
interpreting the intelligence.
Interpreting what were the pictures on ground.
Right.
And so conception or misconception can happen again. In my mind, we are living today in a misconception. In a misconception that everything is okay. Israel is a stabilized zone in the Middle East and nothing can happen to us. And it is, again, a first step of misunderstanding the situation. Because, you know, the main and the most important lesson from Yom Kippur is the question why we didn't prevent the war. There are a lot of lessons from the war itself.
I do want to discuss the lessons from Yom Kippur war.
Yeah, so in my mind, you know, there are a lot of lessons. The failure to predict that the war is behind the door, right. The failure of the use of the regular army. We thought then that the regular army is able to hold the lines till the reserve will mobilize. And there are a lot of other failures, but in my mind, the most important failure is
and we were arrogant back then, after the war.
Sure. I was there, a tank battalion commander in the Southern Front. And in my mind, we could prevent the war. We could prevent the war because we have had to understand that there is no way to keep holding Sinai Desert and the Golan Heights.
And you were there 40 years ago. You were there in Sinai.
I was there. I was riding my tank, commanding a battalion of tanks, and my battalion. I was leading the offense in the night of the 16 October.
Tell me,
to build the bridge to the other side.
Was there a point where you are in Sinai, you are leading the battalion, and you realize that there's a huge army in front of you, and there is a chance that you have to withdraw?
I must admit that I never felt, not in the very difficult and dark period of the war, that we are about to fail. I was sure that we are able to meet the challenge, and I trusted my soldiers, my commander under me, and I think that they saved the state of Israel. But comparing to the leadership in Tel Aviv that felt that we might lose the third house, the third temple, we didn't. In the front, even that we suffered a lot and we fought and it was very difficult, we didn't have even 1 minute of a thought that we can fail.
Was there a moment that you realized what's in front of you?
There was a surprise. Saturday noon or to 1400 hours, it was a surprise. But after a day or two, we get to understand the situation. And once we succeeded to hold our forces and to stabilize the front, then we felt that we can deal and we can meet the challenge.
Amram Mitzna, thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Despite a dramatic improvement in recent years, the IDF leadership is still not satisfied with the shooting accuracy of its troops. Recently, they admitted no current front site is relevant in 2013. A few companies sent their products for strict tests, hoping to win a new prestigious contract. More in Liran Musli's story.
A good sight is an essential element, not only by making the soldier a better soldier, but also can save life of soldiers.
Historically, the IDF soldiers were never considered to be extremely accurate shooters.
During the previous wars, for example, the 73 wars, infantry soldiers shot thousands of bullets, but only very few hit the real targets.
But in the early 90s, Island, then a brigadier general, in a successful move, appointed Mikey Hartman as the head of the shooting school for the entire Israeli military. In the same time, the IDF moved to reflex sights.
It is a sort of interface between the person and the rifle itself, and it helps the soldier to shoot in much more natural way and to aim at the exact target in a simple way, even if he has to do it under pressure.
Recently, the IDF leadership decided to replace the older version of reflex sights. Hartman, who after retirement started designing and manufacturing what he calls the most advanced red dot reflex sight available today.
When I started this company, I didn't want to be different. I wanted to do something that can actually really save lives of the Israeli soldier. Everything that we did in it, we did it through the soldier's eyes. So even the way he holds it, it comes out to the perfect height.
So what are the AQC advantages that makes the IDF consider using them in the near future?
The sight has the biggest and largest window possible. This is great for me because I have a field of view. Let's say I've got many targets on the mountain here. I just point and I see the entire mountain. I don't want to see with a tube.
We put 3 different reticles in our sight. Every other company, they have 1 reticle. It may be good for CQB, it may be good for long distance, it's never good for both. So what we did, instead of the manufacturer deciding, we wanted the soldier in the field to decide. There's a problem in sights that you have to disengage your hand during battle and to activate the sight. I said, I can't do that. I want the sight to be fighter friendly. So what we did was we put an activation button on the forward grip of the weapon, and when you press the button, it turns on the sight. You press it again, it changes reticles. You press it again, it changes brightness levels.
Hartman's new sights are not just about accuracy, they are also considered to be fighters friendly. Even in a world of cyber wars and long-range missiles, you can never underestimate the value of an accurate shot.
In the end of the day, the quality of a soldier who knows how to use his weapon correctly was and still is the most important matter.
Joining me in the studio is Avi Capon, former anti-terrorism officer in the IDF and CEO of Capon Defense. Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
What was the IDF's change when they realized that we have to have a transformation regarding shooting?
At first generation, we had the iron sight, which actually the rear sight was some kind of circle, and the front sight was some kind of pin, and you should coordinate between them and start shooting, which was actually...
I remember that.
You remember
that?
Yes. That's good. Because it was very difficult to shoot very fast with these kind of things. After that, at about 10 years, we get into simple reflex sight, which is actually 1 dot, which means you don't need to coordinate between 2 things, just put 1 dot on the target and then shoot.
And the percentages to aim is higher.
Not only, you should be faster and accurate, because you want to win the battle first. And the 3rd generation is actually what we have here, the product of the MSE sights of Mikey Hartman, is actually a very good product, and it's enable you to shoot very fast, short range, medium range, and long range also.
Basically, we talked before earlier in the show about the Sinai War, the 1973. So back then, we used the Uzis, right? So we had to shoot like hundreds of bullets to get to the target.
And actually, the enemy had the AK-47, which is a far better assault rifle than the Uzi, which is 9mm, which is very limited abilities.
But nowadays it's even more economic because you aim to the target and you don't spend so many bullets, right?
Economic part is also important, of course, but the most important thing is to win the battle.
Right.
And if you want to win the battle, so you have to do it fast and to be the first one to kill.
Where are we compared to other countries in this area?
Well, in matter of assault rifle, we are in very good. We have very good products like the Micro Tavor assault rifle, and in sights, our place is also very good because this product is really put us in the first level of sights.
And a good sight, a front sight, can save lives.
A good sight, which enable you to shoot first and quick, daylight or night, is something crucial to winning the battle.
What is the meaning of a better site for us, even for anti-terrorism battles? Because we're not talking today about wars like front wars.
I will give an example. For example, you have to shoot someone in a street, which is about 50 meters from you, and he's running about 5 meters a second. So if you don't have a good sight that enable you to put the sights and pull the trigger and to shoot very fast and accurate, you just can't do the job.
Avi, thank you for coming to our studio.
Thank you, and Chag Sameach.
That is all we have time for. Be sure to catch us next week for another edition of I24 News Defense. To update with the news, log on to www.i24news.tv. Have a safe night from Jaffa Port.